eternally we're bound to keep on coming back around. Texas rain is falling in the Thank you.
Wow. That was beautiful, George. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. We are so blessed to have such wonderful music at Downtown. World-class, wonderful music, don't we? Yeah, thank you, sir. Blessings. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Nice to be back with you. Well, today's lesson kind of started when I was up at Unity Village. And I shared with you some that I love going back to Unity Village. It's such a renewing and refreshing experience for me. And one of my most valuable experiences in going back to Unity Village brings me back to a memory of the first time I went there. And when I first moved to Lee Summit in order to go into ministerial program also. And one of the first things I remember doing when I got to Unity Village was going to the prayer chapel. How many of you have been to Unity Village? Any of you been there? It's just an amazing, wonderful place that is really dedicated to awakening, to spiritual awareness, to growing, to spiritual, and there's just an energy and a vibe there that really you pick up on and you sense and you feel. And there's a beautiful peacefulness in the place. And I hope and invite all of you to put it on your list as a place for you to go and pilgrimage to, as they might say, and have that experience. But one of the things that I really love is there's this little prayer chapel off of the side of the Charles and Myrtle Fillmore Chapel. There's a large chapel that's probably a little bigger than this room, but about the size of this room. It's a lovely space that Charles and Myrtle used to do all their services in. And Charles and Myrtles were the co-founders of Unity, those who are new in the group. This prayer chapel is just really very sweet, and I thought about bringing you some pictures of it, but I decided I'm just going to try to tell you a little bit about it. As you walk in, you sense and you feel a real experience of silence. It's just a very, very quiet space. And you walk in and you immediately see up on the wall this beautiful mural that's painted that looks like the sky. And can you imagine the beautiful blue sky up there? And then there's wonderful words right in the very center of it. And those wonderful words are peace, be still. There's 6 wonderful chairs that are just perfect for sitting and observing and being and listening and being in that place of stillness. They're wonderful because they have these wonderful arms that come up, and they're like hands that come up and kind of hold you as you sit in them. And it's just kind of a beautiful image. They don't look like hands, but they kind of give me that feel of hands. And you just kind of feel like you are being held there in the presence of God and being nurtured. And you know, it's like you are just being cupped in a loving space. And so when you walk into this place, it just really helps you to move into a space of really knowing and experiencing that presence. The presence of God as love, as peace, as power. And one of my greatest, just had some amazing and wonderful experiences going to that chapel. Whenever I was finding myself in a place where I was feeling challenged through ministerial school, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but ministerial school isn't necessarily always, how shall I put it? It's not always fun sometimes. Sometimes you get your buttons pushed. And that's part of the work that you do in there, is to discover when you get your buttons pushed, if you know what I mean. And to recognize that it's your buttons that are getting pushed. But oftentimes it's hard to do that because you're in the middle of having your button pushed. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And so it's really valuable to have those kind of times and those spaces where you can go and really just reconnect with that place within you where you know that there's a sense of peace. And as I think about that and reflect on that, I remember going to Unity Village for the first, when I moved up there. And when I moved up there, I had no clue where we were going to live. And actually, it was my former wife and I and my oldest son were with us, and we didn't have a clue where we were going to live at the time. We'd been looking and we'd been thinking about it and praying about it, and we were trying to make all kinds of arrangements, and nothing was coming about. So we just loaded everything up on the truck and went. And the first thing we did when we got there is we went to the prayer chapel. And I went in and I sat in the prayer chapel, and we prayed and we listened. And we were there probably, half an hour to an hour. And I just said, well, okay, I knew that we'd find something. I just kind of got a sense that, okay, I don't know where it is, but we're going to find something. And so I called up, after I got out of there, I called up the one of my, they assign you, well, I don't know if they assign you, but you get an upperclassman at that time that would actually kind of help you go into the system and kind of help you get oriented and that sort of thing. And so I called a friend of mine, Steve Tolles, who was my mentor, I guess you might say, during that time, the upperclassman, big brother kind of thing. So I called him up and I said, told him I was in town, and then I asked, and he said, well, is there anything you guys need? And I said, well, I need, if you would pray for us, because we don't really know where we're going to live at this point. We're still looking for a place. And he says, oh, well, the people that live right next to us in the duplex just moved out, and it's a great place. Well, let me go talk to the landlord. So he goes talks to the landlord, and he said, yeah, come on over. We'll put them, and so we found our place to live just like that. I mean, it was like, okay, thank you, God, It was like, okay, well, But, one of the things about that is, and I've learned this over and over again, and I'm still learning it, and I keep getting this lesson over and over again. Maybe you get this lesson also, is we have a tendency to get really caught up in all of the questions and the what-ifs and all of the concerns and the anxieties and the fears, but it's not until we move into that place within ourselves where we can really just be still. Be still. And be still doesn't necessarily mean it's not being rigid, is it? But it really is taking the opportunity and the time to let go. To let go of all of the churning, all of the things that go on, all of the stuff that happens in our thoughts and our feelings and our awarenesses. I don't know if this has anything to do with this, but I thought it was pretty funny. I came across a Ziggy cartoon when I'm thinking about this lesson, and it says, they say that the highway of life is made up of detours. I just prefer a few more rest stops and a lot less toll booths along the way. So that's kind of what we're talking about. We need to make sure that we are building in a lot of rest stops along the way. That we're taking the time to really stop and to not necessarily let ourselves get caught up in all of the things that it's so easy to get caught up in life. Sound familiar? Yeah. I love this one too. One day last month, I opened my morning newspaper and saw a cartoon depicting a child in a department store saying to his mother, "Look, Mommy, Christmas decorations. It must be close to Halloween." I just thought of that because I know Halloween's coming up. And here's another Halloween one. I dressed my dog as a mailman for Halloween. Unfortunately, he bit himself. Those have nothing to do with my lesson, but I always like to get people laughing. Other than laughter is a good way of resting and moving back into that place of center, isn't it? It does really help us to let go of some of the ways that we get ourselves caught up in life. So this has been a good week, an interesting week, in many ways a challenging week, but in many ways a very blessed week for me. And I keep coming back to this lesson in so many different ways. I kept hearing different things that were really speaking to me about this peace, be still. So one of the things that I came across this week, you know, I sometimes just find myself just opening up and saying, okay, what is it I need to learn? And then what is it I need to share? So Unity is an adventuresome spiritual community. So I'm going to share with you some things that I've been exploring this week that I think are very adventuresome. They're adventuresome in this respect. They sound kind of different and strange, but at the same time, there's some real solid research that's being done. So one of the things that I kind of got introduced to this week is an idea of the health benefits of something called grounding. How many of you ever heard of this? Or earthing? It's not a new idea. It's actually been around for a long, long time. But there's a lot more recent research that shows there's some amazing health benefits to this practice of grounding, of earthing. And as I think about that, the practice of grounding and earthing is really basically having physical contact with the earth. That is and we're not talking about, necessarily, we're talking about actually like walking barefoot on the ground or laying on the ground and having your skin have contact with the earth. And that the research is showing that there's really a lot of great health benefits for simply touching the earth and spending time connected to the earth. And I think that's really the word that really kept coming back to me, is being connected to the earth. And I got to thinking about that. And one of the health benefits they've discovered is, how many of you guys are familiar with this idea of free radicals? You've heard of free radicals, right? What they're finding is so many of our illnesses and diseases today are actually being caused by what are called free radicals. Well, free radicals, as I understand it, are basically charged particles within our body. And they have a charge that, if I understand correctly, are basically they're causing disruptions in the body somehow. I don't understand all the science of it, but one of the things that they found that happens when you find yourself touching the ground, touching the earth, is it actually generates negative ions in your bodies, which actually then neutralizes the free radicals. So if you do this, one of the things they're finding is that it actually is an even greater effect than taking a lot of the antioxidants that we're being told that we need, that are valuable for us, and they're good. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but the antioxidant kinds of foods that we read about that really help to get rid of a lot of those free radicals, one of the best ways they're finding is to be able to just simply walk around in your bare feet. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's fascinating research, and I'm just really interested, and I'm thinking I want to experiment with this. We've been doing this, actually, Jayla and I were actually over at the book fair yesterday, and we were walking around on the grass on our barefoot and lay down on the ground on our barefoot, and there's something really very nurturing about that experience. You can actually just feel the sense of that. Can you get a sense of just what it feels like to lay out on the grass? Mm-hmm. It feels so nice, and it's very refreshing. So when I think about that, it occurs to me that you and I are spiritual beings living in a physical form, right? We're not just spiritual beings separate from a physical form, and we're not just physical form separate from our spirit, right? And so I do feel like there's an important awareness about this connection that we have with our earth, that our physical form does need and require a connection with the physical earth, because our physical form arises out of the physical earth. And yet, that's not the whole of us, is it? There's a spiritual form that we have. There's a spiritual nature. There's a spiritual essence that we have. And in order for us to really make sure that we stay connected to that spiritual part of ourselves, we need to be touching that presence. And one of the ways that we touch that presence is by sitting in that place of stillness and silence. Can you see the metaphor of that? I just think that is so beautiful to recognize that I feel like we are being fed both by touching the earth and by touching our spirit, by our source, by being connected with that. And so when I hear that peace be still, I'm reminded that all of the we have lots of different kinds of free radicals in our life, don't we? They can be the ones in our bodies that seem to be disruptive. Well, what are some of the other free radicals that we experience on other levels? Does that make sense? There's a lot of things going on in our lives today, aren't there? There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of things that we are getting involved in. There's a lot of things that really pull our awareness and our attention and get us, it's so easy to get caught up in all of the things that are going on. There's a myriad of things that I've been experiencing, and we've been kind of really, as Laura said, there's a lot of pieces to working out this lease that we're in the process of working on, and so a lot of things that need to come together for that. And it's easy to get caught up in the details, and get caught up in the way, how do we overcome this, and how do we do this, and what do we do this, and a big part of helping us to move forward really has to do with taking the steps, but also taking a step back. And being willing to take a step back and really look at how we go through this experience and how we go through the process in life. So that's true, I think, in so many ways, in so many aspects of our lives. I came across, and I've been thinking about this, when I thought about the saying, "Peace be still," that comes from Mark 4:35. I want to read this to you. "And the same day, when the evening was come, he said unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side." Jesus talking to the disciples. "And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship, and there was also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said unto him, Master, do you not care that we're about to perish?" I love the language here. "And he arose and he rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" Now, I've looked at this, and there's actually 3 different versions of this. One in Matthew, one in Mark, and one of Luke. And one of the things that Luke says, he says, "Where is your faith?" And I really look at that, and what I hear in that is not so much where is your faith, but what are you putting your faith in? And I have a feeling that sometimes we find ourselves putting our faith a lot in the things out here that are going on, don't we? And we put our faith a lot in that we have to make sure that we are in charge. That we're doing everything, right? So anybody resemble that remark? So I was actually sharing this with Jeff yesterday, as a matter of fact. And Jeff came up with a wonderful thing that he had heard about it being a kaleidoscope. Sometimes we get ourselves caught up in the kaleidoscope, and there's a lot of things, a lot of colors and a lot of brightness and a lot of tumbling around, a lot of different shapes and forms. There's a kaleidoscope of experiences going on. And what came to me in that is that even in the middle of that kaleidoscope, there's a point where all of it kind of revolves around, but that point is always still. And part of our waking up, part of our learning, part of our growing is to recognize that with all of the different kaleidoscopic kind of things that are going on in life, all the challenges, all the busyness, all of the things that need to happen, it's important for us to remember to go back to that point of stillness, that point around which all things rotate. Gary Simmons called it the eye of the storm. You guys remember that work that we talked about? The eye of the storm. I love that imagery of the eye of the storm. And the eye he's talking about is not just this eye. He's talking about the eye, the inner eye, the I am. And so recognizing that when we're caught up a lot in the kaleidoscope of life and all of the different activities in life, it is so valuable and important for us to remember to take that time to go back and reconnect with the earth certainly, in terms of our physical being, but it's so important for us to go back and reconnect with our essence, with the truth of who and what we are. In Psalms chapter 37:7, it says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when men succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. For evil men will be cut off, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. Be still and know that I am God." I love that scripture. Be still and know that I am God. "I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." So when I think about this, the lesson for me is to keep coming back to this idea of our connection to our source, our connection to the essence of our being, our connection to that which feeds us, our connection to that which nourishes us, our connection to that which lifts us up. I had another wonderful experience this week. I had another kind of blessed experience. When the ladies were having the women's group, Julie went to the women's group, and bless her heart, she didn't get to go with me, but I had an opportunity. One of my favorite music groups is a group called Carbon Leaf. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Carbon Leaf, but they have a wonderful kind of Celtic bluegrass rock fusion kind of thing, and I really like these guys. They're really, and their lyrics are just beautiful. Their instrumentality is amazing. And Julie actually introduced me to them actually up in the Northwest. So I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do tonight? She's out, and I thought, well, I think I'm going to go listen to some music somewhere. And I'm looking, and I do a little research, and all of a sudden I see the name Carbon Leaf, and I'm going, whoa, Carbon Leaf? I love those guys, And sure enough, they're playing at the parish. So I go online, I try to buy tickets. No tickets online, can't get them. I think, well, I'm just going to show up. So I go there and I show up, and I go to the parish, and I was actually surprised because up in the north, we were to the Paramount Theater, and they practically, I don't know if it was completely full, but it was pretty full. And it was maybe 200 people at the parish. And I thought, they don't know about these guys yet. But anyway, I was able to come right up to the stage. I was about as close as you guys are and listening, of course, and it was great, and I had a great time. So after the concert, it was probably midnight or so, and I don't usually stay out that late on weeknights, but it was fun, and I had a good time. But afterwards, I walked out on the 6th Street, and you guys know about 6th Street, right? 6th Street is such an interesting place. I have to say that I absolutely love it. It's not a place I like to hang out a lot, but I do love it because it's so unique, and you just see such and experience such unique people and such variance in life. And as I walk out, I really just had this real sense of this amazing variance of people having a good time, celebrating. They'd block the streets off. I was really surprised at that. They'd actually block the street off. And I saw a lot of people dressed up in costumes, right? So they're already celebrating Halloween. What a fun time. And I thought, wow, this is really fun. So I just kind of walked out, and I noticed that there was a tree over on the side over here. So I just go over and I remembered this idea about grounding. So I just kind of leaned up against the tree and was just watching and observing. And I found that there was just amazing cacophony of sounds and music coming from every club along the place, right? And people walking along, some in costume, some not, but just, all variants of people expressing in whatever ways people love to express, and such a great variety. And I think I have to say that I really love that because that really, to me, was kind of symbolic of the kaleidoscope also. There was a kaleidoscope of people there and experiences there. And as I'm sitting there leaning against the tree, I felt that real sense of moving into that place, and I was feeling very still. I had this really great sense of stillness within myself and was able to simply be there and be present and really appreciate all of the different activity that was going on around me, but not necessarily getting caught up in it. Does that make sense? And it was a great feeling to have, and it's a great experience to have. And so I think for me it was just another lesson in being connected to the source, being connected and grounded in the source, and being connected in that place of stillness within myself where I know more of the essence of my nature, and not getting caught up in reacting to all the masks that are going on. You know, the word mask really, the word persona, which is personality, really comes from the idea of a mask. And the reality is that we all have some sort of mask that we are wearing in this world, aren't we? And it's not necessarily the essence of who we are, but it is one of the ways that we tend to show up in life. And it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. But it's important for us to recognize that there's a time for us to move back into knowing our true face, our true nature. And one of the ways that we do that is moving into that time of stillness, moving into that practice of the silence. So that's my lesson for the week. I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope it's a valuable lesson for you and a reminder to move back into that place where you are connected, one to each other, but connected to the source of your being, and practice that opportunity to come back into that space where you really do know and feel that oneness and that connection with the truth of your whole nature and your whole being. Have fun with that this week. Blessings. Let's just take a nice deep breath. Breathe into that heart space. And as you breathe in and out, I invite you to imagine and feel and see there a vortex, a swirl, and a center right in the middle of all of those thoughts and feelings and ideas, of all that might be going on in life. It's all a part of the one presence. And we connect best by moving to the center of that presence in all of the swirling activity, all of the decisions in life, all of the choices, all of the challenges and opportunities. We move back to the center, into that still space, and know the I am. Be still and know. Peace, be still. And we say this to the storms of our emotions, of our intellect, of our thinking, of all of life's activities, and give thanks that we are being fed and renewed and refreshed. Be still. Peace, be still. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Blessed Spirit, for this feeling, this knowing, this experience of the stillness, of the silence, of the presence. Take a nice deep breath now. Breathe into that heart space and breathe again into that stillness within you, and know that you bring forth that stillness into this room, not as actual silence, but just a knowing of that presence in all of the activities of life. Take another nice deep breath, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes and know that all is well.